It recently resurfaced that he had dated a 19-year-old when he was 39, had an affair with the wife of a campaign manager, and was addicted to alcohol. Or as Hunter calls it, amateur.
There is no bigger fan of Gavin Newsom than Bill Maher. He loves the guy. Bill, snap out of it. And he had Gavin Newsom on his show on Friday night. Couple of sound bites making the rounds, including this one on the trans issue, SOT 19.
A lot of people lately talking about this 80-20 issue, and I think you are on the other side of this now, the side with the 80. 80 being 80% of the people in this country. Again, this is the issue of should biologically born men be able to compete in women's sports.
That's tough.
And, I saw the polling here in California.
Gavin Newsom's leadership in California has become one of the most discussed failures in recent political history. His record riddled with hypocrisy, contradictions, and policy disasters is being exposed more than ever, thanks to critics like Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly. They have broken down Newsom's polished media image and revealed the chaos, mismanagement, and dishonesty underneath. This isn't just a case of political disagreement. It's a case study in how one man's leadership turned a once thriving state into a model of dysfunction, and now he's pretending to be the solution to problems he helped create. Greg and Megyn aren't just offering commentary. They're holding up a mirror, and what's being reflected is disturbing. Let's start with Gavin Newsom's personal scandals. These aren't just rumors or distant history, they're part of a clear pattern. It resurfaced that Newsom dated a 19-year-old when he was 39, had an affair with the wife of a campaign manager, and openly battled alcohol addiction. While everyone deserves compassion in personal struggles, the hypocrisy becomes glaring when Newsom acts as a moral authority. He lectures the public while failing to live up to the standards he promotes. It's not about his past mistakes, it's about his refusal to take responsibility for them while standing on a platform of fake virtue. Gutfeld and Kelly highlight how this hypocrisy leaks into Newsom's policy decisions. One of the most absurd examples is his handling of the homeless crisis. For years, Newsom allowed California cities to turn into lawless tent encampments. Public sidewalks, parks, and even tourist areas became overrun with tents, garbage, needles, and human waste. But now that he's got bigger ambitions, suddenly he's calling the camps unacceptable. This is the same man who enabled the crisis for years, now pretending to solve it because he wants to look tough on the issue. It's like setting your own house on fire and then bragging about calling the fire department. And it doesn't stop there. Newsom has shifted gears on issue after issue as his national profile rises. When running California, he pandered to the far left, pushing extreme environmental policies, supporting defunding police movements, and embracing radical gender ideology. But now, as he eyes the White House, he's suddenly sounding like a centrist. He's using words like common sense and balance. He's even pretending to oppose the very policies he once signed into law. His new pitch is full of carefully rehearsed hand gestures and vague language, meant to give the impression of thoughtfulness without actually committing to anything. It's a political performance, not real leadership. One of the most striking moments that Gutfeld and Kelly pointed out was Newsom's position on transgender athletes. On Bill Maher's show, he attempted to dodge the issue of biological males competing in women's sports. Despite polls showing that 80% of Americans oppose this, Newsom remained evasive. Instead of taking a clear stand, he spun into the usual talking points, avoiding direct answers. This isn't courage, it's cowardice wrapped in careful language. While girls are losing scholarships and competitive opportunities, Newsom won't even acknowledge the unfairness. Meanwhile, crime in California has exploded under Newsom's leadership. Cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles have become hotbeds for theft, drug use, and violence. Shoplifting under $950 has essentially been decriminalized, leading to a wave of retail theft that's shutting down businesses across the state. Stores now lock up basic items like deodorant and toothpaste. Videos of thieves casually emptying shelves in broad daylight have gone viral. This isn't a few isolated incidents. It's a collapse of public safety. And what has Newsom done? Blamed everyone but himself. He's pointed fingers at Texas, at conservatives, at society, but never at the policies he championed that led to this chaos. And let's not forget his response to COVID-19. Newsom enforced some of the strictest lockdowns in the country. Schools were closed for over a year, even while private schools, including the ones his own children attended, remained open. Small businesses were crushed, while elite restaurants like the French Laundry continued to host fancy dinners attended by Newsom himself. No masks, no distancing, no apology. The same governor who lectured Californians to stay home, save lives, was out enjoying a $700 dinner with lobbyists. It was the kind of hypocrisy that sparked outrage across the country, and for good reason. People lost their livelihoods, their mental health, and their trust in government, while Gavin sipped fine wine and smiled for the camera. And he didn't stop there. Gavin Newsom managed to turn a once world-class education system into a political experiment. Under his leadership, California's public schools fell into chaos. Math and reading scores dropped dramatically. Many students were stuck learning over Zoom for years, with little academic progress and even less emotional support. Meanwhile, private schools, including those Gavin's children attended, stayed open. The message was clear. If you're rich and powerful, the rules don't apply to you. Everyone else? Suffer in silence. Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly didn't just mention these issues, they roasted Newsom's entire political style. Felt. Compared his policies to a Mad Lib sheet filled out by a hung-over lobbyist. Megyn Kelly said Newsom is like a lioness who just found a tofu-wrapped deer wearing Gucci, tearing into him with savage precision. They exposed how Newsom's green energy policies are flashy on paper but disastrous in reality. He brags about banning plastic straws while the state burns from wildfires. He supports costly rail projects that go nowhere, while the state's roads and power grids fall apart. Rolling blackouts are now common. Water shortages are rampant. But Newsom keeps holding press conferences like a motivational speaker at a wellness retreat. They mocked his obsession with hair gel and hand gesture symbols of a politician more concerned with image than results. He's so fake that even his hands have become part of the joke. It's not just what he says, it's how he says it, always with flair and zero substance. Newsom isn't leading California. He's auditioning for a bigger stage. Let's talk taxes. California now has some of the highest taxes in the country. Property taxes, income taxes, gas taxes, it's all through the roof. And for what? Public services are collapsing. Roads are crumbling. Homelessness is out of control. Crime is rampant. Education is broken. And yet, the state runs massive deficits despite collecting record revenue. It's a magic trick only Gavin Newsom could pull off. Turning a tax-heavy budget into a black hole of spending with no results. Kelly pointed out how you'd pay more for a shack in San Francisco than a villa in Greece, and with far less comfort or safety. And then there's the tech exodus. California, once the crown jewel of innovation, has watched its most valuable companies flee. Elon Musk moved Tesla and SpaceX operations to Texas. Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, and countless startups followed. Even Joe Rogan left, blasting Newsom's failed leadership on his way out. The reason? Taxes, regulation, crime, and decay. Newsom downplays it all, tweeting out spiritual quotes and pretending California is still the golden land. But the facts don't lie. People are leaving, and businesses are shutting down. Even environmental issues, Newsom's supposed passion, are mishandled. Billions are spent on feel-good projects that deliver no real results. Solar panels that barely function. Electric trains that never launch. While the forests burn and the reservoirs dry up, Newsom brags about plastic straw bans and compostable napkins. It's leadership based on headlines, not solutions. It's symbolism without substance. Megyn Kelly exposed one of the worst examples of this fakery. Gavin secretly funded a statue of himself inside San Francisco City Hall to celebrate his time as mayor. A monument to his own mediocrity. Think about that. In a city overrun with crime, drugs, and homelessness, Newsom thought what people really needed was a shrine to his ego. When Gutfeld and Kelly tore into him, it wasn't just personal, it was surgical. They peeled back every layer of his public persona to reveal a man obsessed with power, incapable of humility, and disconnected from reality. Newsom may be well-spoken and polished, but underneath it all is a failing record, a broken state, and a legacy of missed opportunities. And let's not ignore his presidential ambitions. Newsom denies he's running, but every speech, every interview, every podcast is part of his national campaign. He wants to be the next Democratic savior. But how can a man who ruined California be trusted to lead the country? It's not just a bad idea, it's a national emergency in the making. He's not offering new ideas, selling the same broken package with new packaging. It's the political version of reheating yesterday's disaster and calling it gourmet. The bottom line is this: Gavin Newsom is not the leader he pretends to be. His tenure in California has been marked by failure, fraud, and phoniness. And now that he's trying to export that model to the entire country, it's more important than ever to call out the truth. Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly aren't just roasting a politician, they're warning America. They're showing us what happens when style replaces substance, when performance replaces policy, and when ego replaces accountability. Gavin Newsom may have the hair, the suit, and the sound bites. But what he doesn't have is results. California is suffering under his rule. People are leaving in droves. Families are struggling. Small businesses are closing. Crime is rising. And all the while, Newsom keeps smiling, keeps tweeting, keeps pretending. This isn't leadership. It's a show. And the more Americans see behind the curtain, the more they realize that Gavin Newsom is not the answer. He's the warning. It's what happens when political theater goes unchecked. And thanks to voices like Gutfeld and Kelly, more people are finally waking up to the disaster behind the glamour. It's time to stop falling for the show and start demanding real leadership. Not hand gestures, not hair gel, not hollow words. Real results. And until that happens, Gavin Newsom's career will remain the shining example of everything wrong with modern politics, flashy facade built on a crumbling foundation. And speaking of crumbling foundations, one of the worst parts of Gavin Newsom's legacy is how he turned California into a state where ordinary people simply cannot afford to live anymore. Under his leadership, housing prices skyrocketed, rent became unbearable, and the middle class started disappearing. Instead of building affordable housing, his administration got tangled up in endless red tape and bureaucratic nonsense. Projects that were supposed to help working families turned into taxpayer-funded disasters. Billions were spent, but very few homes were built. Meanwhile, homelessness exploded. Tents, trash, and desperation filled city sidewalks while Gavin stood behind a podium talking about equity and climate change. Let's talk about equity. Gavin loves using that word. It's become one of his favorites. But what does it actually mean under his rule? In his California, equity means punishing the successful, ignoring public safety, and putting ideology ahead of practical solutions. Schools are failing, cities are falling apart, and law enforcement is demoralized. Police departments are shrinking because of defunding movements he supported. Crime victims are ignored while criminals are released without consequences. All in the name of social justice. But there is no justice in policies that make neighborhoods unsafe and turn cities into war zones. Greg Gutfeld was right when he said Newsom's entire career is like a metaphorical train off track, over budget and pretending to go somewhere. California's infamous high-speed rail project is a perfect example. It was supposed to be a modern marvel, Instead, it's billions over budget, years behind schedule, and still not operational. The only people benefiting from it are consultants and bureaucrats, collecting paychecks for producing nothing. It's a monument to incompetence, just like so many of Gavin's initiatives.